Hey, this is Misery Loves Company, a weekly social reading series hosted by miserytourism.com. Every Friday, we welcome outsider and transgressive writers to come and share their work. Yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. Let's get into this thing. So first up this week, we have Oliver, and he's going to be reading a piece by Blick, and I'll put the link to the piece in the chat. And Oliver, whenever you'd like, you can get rolling.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Blick. And I just suggest some reading, not acting, just very informal. That's what I was told. So,
However
um,
you want to do this, it's totally up
okay.
to you. It can be as laid back and simple as you want, and you can get as crazy and into it as you want.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. So, well, I mean, the reason why I'm here is I just wanted to tell you that I've had this recurring bridge dream for nearly 15 years. And it first appeared one night after being exhausted by cram studying for my bar mitzvah. In this initial fantasy, I was a swaddling infant left on the very beginning of a long and twisting walkway through a vibrant yet desolate forest. I was crying, and there was blood from my bris seeping through the fabric covering my groin. We don't need to dig Freud up from his grave to figure out I was about to undergo a ritual of manhood. So I must have been thinking about the general mutilation that first signaled my acceptance into this tribe. What's quite disturbing from this recurring dream, as it appears today, is that after 14 years of experiencing it, I've only moved forward incrementally from the bloody infant that was first placed on this forest path into a 6-year-old boy that balks at moving forward. In the real world, I'm about to turn 28. My name is Han because my parents are both Star Wars freaks, and the worship of this film series is the only real religion practiced in my household. They obviously were not the only disciples. When I was in pre-K, there was another boy named Han, as well as a girl named Leia. What's strange about my abandoned boy at the bridge recurring dream is that it always is just a prologue to whatever else I'll be dreaming that night. This winding walkway always introduces whatever anxious or peaceful visions my brain has decided to focus on that night. Nightmare, erotic ecstasy, exciting adventures, idyllic beauty. These days in my dream, I am a first grader who is really hesitant about moving forward. But I also see it as my feet turning into the classic ballet fourth position. My mother taught ballet for years, so perhaps my foot position on the bridge is a nod to her. Once again, I don't need to disinter Freud to figure out this bridge sneaks into a representation of my life's journey. By the way, did you know that babies double their birth size by age 5 months? Yet in my recurring dream, I remained a crying, bleeding infant for years. No physical growth, no emotional growth. I'm a bit confused about relationships with women. My testosterone tells me to be more aggressive and not to feel so shy and unworthy. I'm always terrified of saying the wrong thing. In high school, I didn't really have a girlfriend because I was always, hang out with this circle of friends that were both males and females. Most activities were communal, not individual dates. Recently, I joined a dating app called Bumble. On Bumble, only women can initiate first contact, which I like because it reduces the stress of rejection. Yet, I've been registered on this app for 5 months and have yet to receive a single hit. I'm presently undergoing EMDR. It's a eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy, which also includes hand tapping and listening to ambient sounds like ocean waves via headphones that seesaw these sounds from ear to promote a kind of oral hypnosis. One of the side effects of this treatment is that it can cause vivid, realistic dreams. But my recurring dream happened years before I entered therapy. My therapist insists I keep a journal between sessions in order to maintain the session's progress she insists is occurring. My shrink Martha works for the VA, but please don't think I'm some sort of war hero suffering from PTSD. I never even enlisted in the war against Christmas. Yet I've never known a world without suicide bombings, school shootings, and acts of terrorism that take place in my backyard, not in some distant land. Martha is also an ordained Lutheran pastor, but she never mentions God in our sessions. I tell Martha I'm so sick of hearing reasons why millennials can't grow up. My shrink calls it a first world problem, not unique to young men my age. I am depressed and anxious all the time, but don't know why. I am always smiling and laughing at jokes I don't think are funny, so people won't discover how unhappy I am. I feel like I'm faking everything. Being an adult to me means not doing things you enjoy doing. Yet that's nuts because my parents still act like kids at Star Wars conventions. Why am I so miserable? I had everything I was supposed to need while growing up: emotional and financial security, a good education, and now a more than decent paying job. I do feel guilty that there are so many less fortunate people than me, and know it is unmanly to be so constantly sad. Every day there's somebody crying out what privileged assholes we millennials are, so I always feel pressure to pretend I'm happy. My shrink says I should spend less time always surrounding myself with people and more time being alone, even if it means being bored at first. But I can't relax by myself. I tried all different kinds of things, but I can't slow down my goddamn anxious thoughts. I've tried drugs, porn, video games, and even different kinds of meditation, Zen meditation with mindfulness on breathing and intentionally focusing on the moment. Then I did meta meditation to focus on a loving kindness towards myself as well as empathy for other people. In my final workshop, I studied Sufi meditation to try to achieve mystical union with a supreme being. In every class and workshop I've taken, I seem to be the only one who can't obtain this metaphysical knowledge and peace. I would often comfort myself in class by thinking my fellow students are just bullshitting their enlightenment to try to make me feel like shit. But thoughts like that defeat the entire purpose of meditation, which is to get to know myself and pull away from the outside world to focus on my inner world, instead of blaming everyone else for my failure. Do you understand how fucked up a person I am? Hell, I even get sad deleting old tweets because it feels like I'm flushing away a big part of who I was and who I am. Last month, Martha suggested I try using a weighted blanket that applies deep pressure touch. Let me repeat, deep pressure touch. She says it stimulates the feeling of being comforted like a swaddling baby, and is supposed to help my insomnia and anxiety. So instead of finding my anxieties like a real man, I retreat into acting like a fucking baby again, all tucked inside my crib beneath a blanket of 30 pounds of pellets sewn into it. So far, it hasn't worked. When I ask Martha how she arrives at the concept of what exactly my emotional age is, she turns the question back on me and asks, what do I believe is my emotional age? I tell her, I don't know anything, except first my dick is snipped at birth, and then as I advance in life, I have my balls constantly broken by social proclamations that I must be successful. I worry I'll never live up to my own expectations. I grew up being told I could be anything I wanted to be, but I'm coming to the realization that I'm not as smart, talented, or special as I thought I was, and that fuels an obsession with having to succeed. My friends and I seem to be growing up poorer than our parents. My mom and dad can afford to go to Star Wars conventions all over the world, but my important travel plans are still handcuffed by student loans. I get incredibly stressed over not being able to find a Wi-Fi spot, forgetting passwords to online accounts. The buffering sign when I'm streaming online is like taunting me that my life is going in circles, like the areola of a maternal tit. I stress when unable to find my TV remote, just as my favorite Netflix show is starting. I am unable to advance past the age of 6 in my recurring dream. Is it because I'm a victim of helicopter parenting? I mean, during my childhood, my mom and dad hovered over every experience and problem I had growing up. Cell phones are the longest umbilical cord in the world. I was taught to be afraid of strangers, playing sports, sexual contact. Is that why they claim we millennials act more like children than adults? Okay, this outburst of self-pitying is very tiring, so I'm going to disappear under my state-of-the-art weighted blanket and hope tonight is the night it crushes my recurring dream of being a child stranded on a spooky bridge inside a dying primeval forest. And if my heavy blankie is unable to extinguish a dream, perhaps when I wake up, I will have at least gained a year of emotional age. So I will be a 7-year-old boy on that walkway, just 3/4 away from achieving my true age of 28. Thank you.
That was fantastic, Oliver. You really captured the neurotic essence of that story. And Blick, you killed it again with another character. And I have to say, Blick, as someone who is who's a lot closer to the age of the character being depicted here than you are, like, you got it, man. You very much got
But let me tell you, when I first had that published and the editors did one of these things here, when I got on, you know, I'm like fucking Father Christmas, you know. Derek is so happy. I'm old enough to be his father. He's oh good. I'm not the oldest fart on here now. Now it's me, you know. I get it by that. But they couldn't believe this old man's reading is reading this millennial thing. So I like that. So
yeah, no, you killed it. I mean,
you did great, Oliver. Oliver, thank you. Thank you so much for
no, absolutely. Like that
Oh,
weird.
thanks for letting me read it.
Yeah, thank you so much for reading, Oliver.
You're welcome. Thank you. Yeah. I'm not used to Zoom.
Yeah, no, Zoom is, I'm always like, should I be muted? Should I be unmuted? Is it time for me to talk? It's hard to get like the social cues to know exactly when. But yeah, thank you so much. But yeah, Blake, that like unique kind of like arrested development, like neurotic, self-aware arrested development that seems to be very much a function of the like millennial Zoomer generation. I think you captured it perfectly. And I had one of those fucking dreams last night. I had a dream where I was in school last night. So perfect timing. Anyway, up next is Tony.
Hi, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, great. So first I want to thank Blick for inviting me to this or showing me to it, and William for putting it on.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Yeah, glad to be here. So I'm going to read 2 or 3 poems. This one is called Blue Rose. They say at the hospital, you never see the same doctor twice, and they all have a different opinion. I see Shay with the short hair shaking her head no. I ask her to show me the garden, but she leads me to the dark room with the computers. Shay with the short hair and the power smiled at me in the blue fluorescence. And Shay with the long hair with the flower who showed me compassion and never wrote back. And Shay with the long wavy hair scattered in the black satin dress who smiled in the blue fluorescence and never wrote back. This one is called Son of a Tortured Genius Among Surfers. Sam was depressed. When his tortured genius of a father finally killed himself, his last words were, "I 100% blame my son." Out of respect for the family, I withhold the full transcript. Suffice it to say, he was obsessed with the idea that Sam, even as a toddler, had conspired with his mother to tear him away from the city, his one great muse, and move the family to the lazy beach town he had so come to hate. It was true that Sam loved the beach. He knew his father resented his lifestyle, and the suicide itself was unsurprising, but no one had seen this coming. Sam knew what he had to do. He retreated somewhere deep inside himself. He sat in silence amidst the mirth of bonfire, staring deep into the flame. Said he didn't want to talk. He pointed at a can of beans roasting over the fire and said, "That's what I feel like." A single bean dropped into the sand. Any day now, a new girl in town would come walking down the beach, take the empty seat next to Sam on the log, and shyly introduce herself. Then, another day not long thereafter, just by the look on her face, Sam would know that she'd heard about his inheritance. This last one is called Violators. They are fueled by the fallout of negative energy from the execution of daily distractions, in the time spent deciding which lamp, which box of cereal, in the protracted hours of getting dressed, and through common ethereal moments, in the moments past the amount of desired liquor in the pouring of a drink, in the brief and blank attention paid to an ambulance, the silence between friends when passing a beggar. It all goes to the violators, and they're happy to have it. You can spot one by the way they respond to a stranger's genuine concern for their health and well-being, and by the manner and circumstance in which they ask forgiveness. Instead of white linoleum beneath fluorescent lighting, a violator in severe stillness may perceive an aqueous pulsing in the color spectrum of bruises. They will remain focused on the speaker, still waiting in expectation after a joke that landed with everyone but them. You will notice two of them in a community and find yourself unnerved weeks later when they have become inseparable. And always there's that stare and your choice to linger, as if in acceptance of an invitation back to some primal area. You will convince yourself that in just the way they smile at anything you say, they are seen through the many layers of you, past all the fakeness, right to the core motivations that neither you nor those closest to you have been ever able to detect. They are a patient bunch. They yearn for a place where the blinds are drawn just before natural sunset, where they can begin to undress and become again whatever it is they really are. That's all. Thanks.
Tony, those were beautiful. Your
Thank you.
delivery was wonderful. Your delivery was fucking hypnotic, is what it was. I especially loved the second poem because it was constantly undermining your expectations for a poem like that. Every moment when you're like, oh, I think I know where this is going. This is about a kid dealing with his dad's suicide. And then you're like, shit. And there were at least 3 separate moments over the course of that relatively short poem where you totally pull the rug out from under the reader or the audience. And I think that's spectacular. I think that's what literature does. So thank you so much, Tony, for sharing those.
Thank you. I appreciate I can tell you make it a point to be a very attentive reader, and I appreciate that. I'm sure others do too. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming, and thank you for sharing your work. It's fantastic. Next up is Forrest. Are you with us, Forrest?
Yes, here I am, unmuted.
Hey, Forrest.
Hey, William.
I'm going to hear my voice fed back to me here. So I'll just say, you can start reading, and then I'll wait until after you're done to say anything.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna read a story, and I've been writing over the last few months, but it's been in my head for a long time. And I'm gonna try to do some Jersey accents, but they might sound like Boston accents. So sorry if that's the case. It's called Messed Up Heads and a Helmet. In the middle of New Jersey, a family is sitting around the den. I wish to express my displeasure towards Michael, said Joey through a grainy digitized voice coming through speakers on a wearable gadget that was covering half his head and throat. What'd he friggin' say? Said Joey's brother, Michael, with a gritty laugh to accompany his cursing. Oh, I know what he said. He said, you're a fucking asshole, Michael. Didn't you, Joey? Said their older sister, Janie. Yes, said Joey through the grainy baritone digitized voice. I told you so, said Janie. He's right, you know. Fuck you, Janie. Well, you didn't have to call him a retard in front of your nephew, Janie said as she winced a pained, insincere smile at Woody, her nephew, who was sitting on a puffy chair staring at the TV on the opposite side of the small room. Woody was visiting from another state because his uncle Joey had become temporarily brain damaged from drinking too much alcohol. Woody had come to console his mother, who was helping his grandmother, Joey's mom, while Joey was living at home recovering from brain damage. Before he arrived, Woody had been excited to see how well the gadget on Joey's head worked. And this was one of the reasons he agreed to participate in the grief of a family whose grief was certainly not scarce. The gadget was called a silent speech. Supposedly, it took nerve and muscle activity and translated it into the digitized voice that was coming from the speakers on Joey's head. Joey had become so brain damaged, he could barely talk. His eyes would dangle around inside his head and his mouth would sputter, but no words would come out. Only mumbled drool and displaced laughter. Since this was the third instance within a 6-year time frame that Joey had become brain damaged and was left unable to speak, the insurance company offered a silent speech to aid with Joey's recovery. Just as long as Joey's family agreed to allow the device to be programmed in a way that was meant to modify the behavior of patients recovering from severe drug and alcohol abuse. Another reason Woody agreed to come aside from the stated purpose of consoling grief is that he wanted to see what it was like when somebody got temporarily brain damaged from drinking too much. Wet brain syndrome, his family called it. By now, however, the novelty of both the device and the brain damage had worn off, and Woody was ready to return to his summer break at home a long way from New Jersey. Don't listen to your Uncle Woody, Janie said in response to Michael telling her to fuck off. He's a Todd too, you know. Janie smiled another fake smile and chuckled at her own joke. You know what, Janie? No one fucking cares, all right? Janie shrugged her shoulders at Michael and said, someone has to tell you about yourself. She turned on her heels and started walking to the adjacent room. Michael, Joey, and Woody remained seated in the den. The sound of an NFL broadcast came from the TV, and the three of them sat watching the game in silence. Joey sat with much better posture than the other two because, along with the sleek plastic gadget that was wrapped behind his ears and over a good portion of his neck, he also had a metal brace clamped to his shoulders and forehead to keep his head from wobbling and damaging the silent speech. Further ensuring Joey's upright posture, Janie had precariously fixed the tumbler full of ice and cola on top of the metal bracket that Joey slurped from with a long straw. When Janie wedged the tumbler of cola into the contraption, it reminded Woody of one of those prank beer drinking helmets that allow you to strap 2 cans of beer to either side of your head. But Woody didn't mention this to anyone, even though he knew at least one of his uncles would be amused. After a few commercials, the NFL broadcast commentators said over a roaring crowd, "The Jets are really going to want this field goal if they're going to come back from the half feeling like they have a chance to win this thing." "The Jets could really use this field goal," said the play-by-play announcer. "And at 41 yards, it's certainly within Malinkowski's range. He hit from 52 to get the Jets their lone 3 points during the game's opening drive." The sound of screeching referee whistles and screaming fans came through the TV as the teams got set for a field goal. "It's blocked," shouted the play-by-play announcer. "And the Pats have it. That's Davis, number 54, running down the sidelines, and no one's going to catch him. Touchdown, Patriots." "So much for going in the half with any momentum. Boy, are you right about that, John. If the Pats manage to get this extra point, they'll be going in the half with a whopping 21-point lead." Michael pinched the bridge of his nose as if he had a migraine. Woody shook his head in the TV in disapproval, and Joey made a number of grimacing facial movements before saying through his computer voice, "They are doing poorly." The way the silent speech worked is that it would guess at what Joey was trying to say, then read sentences to him quietly in an earpiece until Joey approved of the sentence by moving his head sharply to the right. So there was often a lot of grimacing and twitching before Joey said anything, if he said anything at all. "Poorly," Michael said. Michael couldn't get over the way the silent speech rendered Joey's language. He had been ricocheting its sentences and belly aching the past 3 days. "Fucking poorly. I think what you meant to say is that they suck. You know what? I think that helmet, it might actually make you more retarded than you were before." Michael, shouted Janie as she retraced her steps back into the den. "Oh, God damn it. Just give it a rest, will ya? I'm tired of this goddamn Indian football helmet for you know what? It's disrupting my peace of mind." Michael had been calling the silent speech a football helmet for retards since Woody arrived. That is, until Janie showed up and stuck herself between Michael and the word retard. Michael also used Indian to describe the silent speech as if Indian were a pejorative. It was not clear if Michael used Indian with a strong negative connotation because he detected an Indian English inflection in the digital understudy to his brother's voice, or if Michael somehow harbored ill feelings toward the advanced biotech of a foreign nation despite having nowhere near any stake in the game. Probably both, and it didn't matter because Michael's frustrations ultimately stemmed from a rolling eruption of his own private disasters to which his brain-damaged brother's medical treatment was a ceaseless reminder. Presently, his brother's self-inflicted intellectual disability was reminding Michael that he had a large portion of his net worth on the New York Jets winning for no logical reason, aside from perhaps that he felt somehow drawn to sensations of being humiliated. "You know," he said, speaking to the room, "if it wasn't for Ma, I'd probably just throw that fucking thing in the garbage and put him to bed until his head got right." Janie, hovering, waiting for any chance to chastise Michael, flicked the ends of her shoulder-length, bleach-highlighted hair as if to beautify herself at the same pace that she was becoming unnerved. "Why do you say dumb stuff like that?" Michael, looking prideful about his innate ability to perpetually get on his sister's nerves, replied, "I don't want to talk to him anyway, and if Ma wasn't so upset, I'm telling you, I'd throw that goddamn Indian bleep, bleep, bleep on the bleeping curb." "Listen, Michael, without that thing, he wouldn't know when he was hungry or when he wasn't feeling well, so he'd probably just be sitting here shitting his pants until he started drinking again. Is that what you want?" Janie paused for a moment to let the profundity of her revelation about her brother's GI issues sink in as she gathered the closing phrase to her argument in favor of the silent speech. "We'll be sitting here, watching him get drunk and shit his pants until kingdom come." Woody looked over his shoulders at Michael and tried to change the subject. "What's the spread?" he asked. This amused Joey, and he laughed a strange, garbled laugh until the silent speech cut him off and stated, "I find this humorous." "Oh, God, Joey. Here we go," said Janie. Joey twitched his face and throat muscles as the other three stared at him until at last the silent speech formulated a sentence and the digital voice said, "Tell him what your wager is." There was a spark in Joey's eye that Woody had not seen since he arrived. "My wager," said Michael. "Okay, first of all, he asked me for the spread, not my fucking wager." Michael mimicked a severe speech impediment when he said wager, even drooling a little bit out of the corner of his mouth as he said it, and nobody, likely not even Michael, could tell if the drool was an accident or mockery. "See," he said, wiping his mouth, "this fucking Indian fucking thing don't even speak our language. Who the fuck says wager? Not this fucking retard." Jeannie scolded Michael again before Joey managed to formulate his next sentence. "He wagered $250 that his team would win," said the digitized voice. Woody looked at Michael with a taunting smile. Janie shook her head in disapproval, and Joey laughed a spastic laugh until the silent speech said again, "I find this humorous." "I find this humorous," Michael said, mocking the digital voice. Then to Woody, "Listen, there's an 8-point spread, and the Pats are supposed to sit half their guys. I got screwed. That's all there is to it, but it ain't over." Joey laughed again and said, "I find this humorous. The team will certainly lose." "Jesus fucking Christ," said Michael. "I need a drink." "Michael, don't you dare." Michael softly told Janie to fuck off. As he walked out of the room, the screen door slammed, and then Michael could be seen through the window smoking a cigarette on the porch. Janie sat down on the couch next to Joey and pinched his cheek, and she dipped her finger in the cola tumbler on top of his head and said in a baby voice, "Do you need some more icy, baby brother?" "I wish to express my displeasure," said Joey. "Oh, stop it. You know you love me," she said, kissing his head. "Even if you are kind of retarded right now." The three of them sat in silence for a moment as Michael paced on the porch outside smoking. Janie, Joey, and Woody watched several minutes of football commercials in silence until Michael came back in the room with a can of cola. "I'm telling you, Michael, there better not be booze in there." "Booze? What the hell's wrong with you? It's soda." "I know you, Michael. If you put some of Mommy's port in there, he'll smell it on you. You know he will." "There's no freaking goddamn port in a can of Pepsi that I got for the fridge, okay?" "Come here, let me smell it." "No. You're going to mess this whole thing up, Michael. Let me smell the damn soda." "Get out of here." Janie got up and started reaching for Michael's can of soda. "Give it to me," she said, as Michael held the can high enough so she couldn't reach it. Janie was standing on her tiptoes, reaching for the soda as Michael laughed and danced around behind her. They were both standing on their tiptoes when Janie leaned in too far, toppling them both onto the couch and spilling the soda all over Joey's head and down between the cushions. "God damn it, Michael," said Janie, pulling herself up. "You're going to break his thing." "Me? Get the hell away from me." "Go get a towel before it electrocutes him." Joey sat straight up, careful not to spill the soda that was on top of his head as Michael, ignoring Janie's request for a towel, plopped himself on the couch, took a big gulp of what remained in his can. Janie said, "At least we know there's no booze in there," and hurried into the kitchen and returned with a towel. Joey sat silently grimacing as his sister licked a towel, then cleaned his face. His face suddenly swelled with sadness. "It's not my fault," he said. Woody looked concerned, and Janie cooed pitifully as Michael focused on the game. The Jets had just been sacked and punted after 3 downs on their first possession back from the half, and Janie was trying to wipe clean the couch under Michael's rear end. As the game went to commercial and his sister fussed with the couch cushion underneath his seat, Michael began to process what his brother had said a half-minute previous. "What do you mean it's not your fault?" he said. "Of course it's your fucking fault. You made yourself retarded. How is that not your fault? Michael!" "What? That's what happened. Okay, well, maybe he was so to begin with that he couldn't help it, but making himself more so. But he still made himself retarded." "God damn it, Michael. Watch your goddamn mouth or else. Or else what?" "Our father had a kid." Michael and Janie stopped bickering and looked sharply at Joey. "Oh, no, you fucking didn't." said Michael, reacting to Joey's accusation. Joey, our father is dead. You didn't forget, did you? Oh, geez, here we go, said Michael, rolling his eyes. Joey grimaced and twisted his mouth, concentrating fiercely as the other three awaited an explanation from their father's accuser, until at last the silent speech said, you, of course, remember when our father hit a young man with his car. Janie's ear was now turned on Joey, foregoing the sympathy that had been redirecting her general annoyances solely at Michael ever since Woody had arrived. She gave him a weighted look and shook her head. Don't say that in front of your nephew. Wait a minute. You don't know that story about Pop, Woody? Woody turned his chair towards his aunt and uncles and shook his head no. Michael started telling a story about how his father worked as a bookie in a local bar. Wait a minute, interrupted Janie, indulging in her family's transgressions against her professed judgment. First of all, Pop used to drive a hearse. That freaking car. It was reminiscent of the deceased. You could fit all of us 6 kids in it, and 6 of our friends. We used to sit where you put the coffins, Janie said with an insincere smile. Once upon a time, he let me drive. Yeah, he let you drive home from the lake because he was a 12-pack deep, and he'd rather his 13-year-old son get popped than him to get it for driving around drunk again. Anyway, said Janie, sucking up all the air in the room, Pop used to drive his hearse down to the Trelly on Amora Avenue, which was right next to Nanny's apartment where your great-grandmother used to live. He went there because he could run a phone line from Nanny's into the bar so he could work the phones and take bets while the horses and games ran on TV. He made me climb the tree and nail in the phone line. Don't tell him that, Michael. The next thing you know, I'll be climbing trees with electric wires, said Janie. Why not? It's true. He gave me $1 for it. I think I drank about 10 sodas that night. Anyways, Pop was taking bets one night, and he used to drink, too. He was completely shit-faced. Michael, he was pretty drunk. He probably had about 17 drinks because he was sitting there all afternoon. So at the end of the day, and it was probably a bad day, like the Jets won the Super Bowl and he lost a lot of money or whatever. So when he was done at the bar, he gets in the hearse to drive home. Joey and Bobby saw him driving down the block, didn't you, Joey? Michael said. Joey raised his eyebrows, which seemed to say, oh boy, that was something. That's right, continued Janie. Joey and Bobby was standing on the out front playing stickball or something, and the rest of us kids was inside doing God knows what, and all of a sudden we hear yous out front like you were screaming, Pop, there's a kid under your car, remember? You were really freaked, said Michael to Joey. Regrettably, a child was injured. Pop hit the pizza boy, continued Janie's. It was Tommy Wilkins who lived up the street. He used to deliver pizzas when he was in high school, and he was riding his bike down Mommy Street delivering pizzas when Pop hit him. Pop was so messed up that he didn't even notice, and he was dragging the frickin' kid and the kid's bike down the street underneath his hearse. There was a danger. Sparks were flying everywhere, said Michael, but Pop was too shit-faced to notice. All his kids ran outside, and when we heard you screaming, continued Janie, and I shit you not, Pop had dragged little Tommy Wilkins all the way down Gramercy Avenue. Janie shrugged her shoulders, threw her hands up to say, you can't make this shit up. There is more. That's right, said Janie. Tommy Wilkins was one of your friends or something, wasn't he? I never hung out with him, said Michael. Didn't you play ball with him or something, Joey? No. Well, it must have been Bobby O'Donnell that was playing ball with him anyway. He barely had a scratch on him, and he just got up and walked away. He left his bike underneath Bobby's car because he couldn't ride it no more. It was completely wrecked. Our father didn't know. That's right, said Janie. Pop used to left the whole heap of mess on the front lawn and ran upstairs and hid under Joey's bed without even looking back. He was under there. How long was he under there anyways? It must have been a long time because I don't remember seeing him for like a week or more. Long, said Joey with a troubled look. He was hiding from the cops. He didn't get in any trouble, though. The cops never came. He was probably back at the bar drinking the next night and driving. Jeez Louise. Woody's aunt and uncle laughed about their dead father's alcoholic habits until the football commentators announced the end of the game. Michael began cursing, and the digital voice said, "I find it humorous the team lost."
Thank you for it. Oh, I can hear my.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. I just want to say now that piece is going to be appearing on Misery Tourism, in maybe even as early as next week. If not next week, the week after. Forrest sent it to Rudy and I a few days ago, and man, I lost my fucking shit while I was reading it. That has to be like the most I've laughed while reading a submission in, I don't know, weeks, months. Is just such a hilariously vicious, nasty, and well-written piece. And in addition to that, I like that technically, I suppose this is a speculative fiction piece because there's invented technology here, but the invented tech of that headpiece of the helmet feels so real to me. It feels like it is like minutes away from being invented. Like it really does seem like something that could exist. Everything down to the obnoxious fact that he has to listen. It kind of vaguely understands what he wants to say, and he has to listen and kind of indicate with his head. Every part of that feels real. It feels like something that could exist. And the way it's kind of plunked down into this hilarious domestic comedy is just pitch perfect for us. And so it's a hilarious fucking piece. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, that was fun. That was a lot of fun. And it's coming. The tech's coming. So there's a TED talk or something about it, I'm sure.
Awesome. Next up, more poetry from Gigi Rowland. Are you with us, Gigi?
Yeah, I am.
Awesome. It's all yours. Are you reading from your book tonight?
Yeah. If you want a copy of this, email me at the letter G, Roland@gmail.com, and I'll send you a PDF. Don't buy it; it's not worth the money.
Come on, man! You got to self-promote in this industry. I've got his book.
That's the best I could do. I just want people to read my shit. I'm not going to make money off this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair enough. But okay, the floor is yours, man.
I got 4 or 5. I got a couple short ones, a long one, and then another short one or two. This will be quick. This poem's called "I am now ready to accept that the customer is not right. The fascist at Claire's would not pierce my penis. I've never had a wet dream. I'm too good at masturbating. I need to prove to a hooker that it is just about the sex. No medical professional ever agrees to beat me up. They just laugh. Sometimes the way I am makes the person I am talking to uncomfortable. I will ask them about this later. I will think this is all in my head, or I only associate with people who lie to me. The next time I see a dead animal on the road, I'm going to kick it all the way home." This next poem is called "Russet." I want to be made into French fries and for someone to complain about how I'm not French, so I can explain that the French in French fries refers to a cutting method and that I am not a potato. This poem's called "I'm going to kill everyone until I stop getting paid." No, yeah, do not mind me just tying my dick in a knot. I'll be right with you. This is the long one. This poem's called "Popsicle." 1. I've never poured Lucky Charms on my body. Eventually they too will disappear. My favorite thing is standing on a purposefully moving jellyfish. I have never done anything long enough. I am moving to Alaska. 2. I have never met my neighbors. I moved to Alaska, so I can never meet my neighbors. In Alaska, jellyfish are exotic. Other places, Lucky Charms. 3. Jellyfish, sometimes considered in Alaska, have never thrived in cold climates. I'm lying about jellyfish in cold climates. I do not know about jellyfish in cold climates. I have never told the truth. I just jellyfish. 4. Some jellyfish sting to pass the time. I've never squished a jellyfish under my thumbs. Other jellyfish are not jellyfish because they are turtles. Tomorrow, Alaska says all new residents bring jellyfish. I want to experience death because of jellyfish. 5. Hi, Alaska. I'm at home on my street. Stand with me on the sidewalk. There is a jellyfish parade today. Would you like some Lucky Charms? And this is the last one I think I'll read. This one's just silly. This is called Chris Angel's Last Performance. An elephant disappears in a parking lot. He says it is missing. I do not know where it is. Please help me. This keeps happening. The elephant was just here and now it is gone. I do not know. Maybe not. We will all die eventually. Stop not doing magic, says the crowd to Chris Angel. I'm a Buddhist, says Chris Angel back. That's all I got.
Thank you. You fucking killed it again. Every time you read, I can't even say anything. I'm laughing so hard.
God damn, you guys are being really positive here. Thank you.
Oh, that's fantastic. I think you read the Chris Angel one once before, or I read it before myself.
Probably.
But every time that one fucking kills me. That is like just like the most hilariously mortifying thing. Like
It would suck to be in
imagine
that
being
spot,
up there
yeah.
performing a magic trick and you're just
You do real magic for the first time. You're like, all right, fuck. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thanks for letting me read.
Sorry, Gigi, I'm losing it. Thank you so much, man.
I love those, and let me just say, Gigi, that your poetry is kind of like, to me, it's like Nickelodeon, like Nicktoons, like, but they go too far in a way that I wish they would have gone too far. That's the only way I can describe it. I love it.
Thank you. I love you, Rudy.
Fucking joking here. Thank you so much, Gigi. Up next, Griffin.
All right. Okay.
Down here.
Let me.
So this is a piece from a collaboration that you've been teasing quite a bit on Twitter here, huh?
Yeah. So this is a collab between me and Rachel Ullum, Void Throat on Twitter, and also William S. Burrowed, who's dead. It's called The Church of Burrowed Flesh, and I'm gonna just get into it. The irrigation ditch fades in obsidian pillars, and the dirt road to grassland and cypress lizards pecking through clear blue veins. Beyond this point, the desert is riddled with tunnels dug through dusty mica mirrors and tin cans and tin beams and flickering tubes, a desert of cracked concrete and red mud, with phosphorescent red rock huts dotting the horizon. A dry river separates the cities, and a thick cloud of smoldering mineral dust hangs limp in the air above the cities. The commuters cross over into the cities. The dry riverbank fades in smoke rings. Phosphorescent metal shrieks over the towns and cities. Rifle bulletins and pigeon song. Newsreels of riot gas sweep the earth. Flash of silver light in darkening warehouses. No one is there to protect you. Signal at dawn, scraping fractured metal under heavy metal foot traffic. X-ray photos fall black to a planet far, far away. Tarnished mirror of planet, vapor trails raiding the sky, sick muttering of streets. This place is time to take off your clothes, see the guards there. Galaxy's whole biosentient police force setting up shop in empty flesh. Pale youths armed with vacuum handcuffs scream with the violence of dead sun. Green youths snapping X-ray photos of dead sun. Vindictive youth take up arms in dark periods of the day to take advantage of all the citizens of the area with different weapons and habits. It is up to them to take the place. The best method of taking advantage of this is guerrilla war. As you can see from this composite, the situation is hopelessly insecure. The enemy has all weapons, can field all your weapons. There is no way in hell to get your stuff, and you're getting nothing done. You can return to negative psychic conditioning. I am writing to you on a personal level the technical terms negative and negative. I can't be trusted with this information. Negative control freak like me, you will find it incredibly difficult to get things done at this rate. You want me to do the talking? Go to hell. Go to hell. Union? No, union. Go to hell. Negative psychic conditioning is the worst form of control. If you get in the way of progress, people start doggering. The worst form of control is mob control. If a citizen is not taken advantage of and damned to do something, he/she will be doggered by the devious controllers who then turn on each other for the very first one, way or anal or petrified or both. It is precisely the work of the Antichrist to eliminate the anti-souls. This is known as the satanic process. The process is known as the purge. We evilly orient each other, and it takes a precise concentration of brain power. We do this by telepathizing each other and sitting in a circle in the function of hanging polluted movies, hanging polluting the studio by having a scene with a horrible character actor in drag. And the riot police have been stationed along Avenue 36 in front of the Avenue of Retail. AJ is installing barriers of cable, so great that officers from both sides pass through each time, and officers from streets convinced the contract is not final are dragged out on the sidewalks bare feet and over the Speedo driver. Elderly, blonde, black, Klingon, Philippine, Tibetan, Australian, Arab, Greek, Martian, Indian, Swedish, a gymnast, a judo master, a skier, a poltroon, a judo boy, a vaudeville singer, a ballet prodigy, a judo master who learned ballet in school, an electrician, an osteopath, a kinesiologist, a plastic surgeon, a biographer, a psychoanalyst, a writer who wrote a prolapsist and became a kinesiologist, a biographer who changed a hyphenated lyric into phonetic code that listens in on a perforated nerve center of the brain, a professional judo wrestler, a judo boy from Moscow, a chess grandmaster, a judo boy in a jockstrap who alternates between billowing, steel boos, and a muffled percussive snarl, screams through steel, screams through yokes of concrete as the ropes unload, the whole structure of pro wrestling into one muffled perforated husk. And I am standing there in that structure, in that same muffled perforated husk, the observer in his millions, the rising star of the mob, standing there with the whole of New York State screaming through the black dust of Staten Island, screaming through the shit-strewn streets, the overpass, the country club, screaming through the shit-strewn commuters. I am standing there under the total siege of time, screaming through the spit of adolescent virginity, under the noose, under the hot hand of absolute hierarchy, under the iron hand of absolute management, under the gaze of the noose, no matter how long it lasts. The dogs of Yeshua attack anyone who interferes with the chain of command. Anyone who does not follow suit is subject to be burned at the stake. I have seen the dogs of Yeshua, and I know what their purpose is. Operation completed. They will return to their old ways. You can look at any place. No good, no bueno. Get physical with the noose. It's made of bone and iron. They will return to their old ways. Get physical with the noose. It's made of bone and iron. If they get physical with the noose, fuck off, you two lemming bitches. Get physical with the chain of command. They will come for the noose. The chain of command is the noose. The noose is a hard shell of bone, tough as steel. The chain of command is the noose. The noose is a hard shell of bone, tough as steel. The noose is a hard shell of iron as well as the chain of command. The iron chain of command is the iron, the chain of command. The noose of noose is the blueprint for a future nuclear age. Let's fucking go, fuck off. The severed head raining death by overactive imagination. They are all fucking nuts, the capital old man and woman. Get ready for our absolute nirvana. Thermodynamics is just fine. All the forces of nature are pulling at an angle. You see, it's just like the Big Bang, except for the fact that it was the forces pulling its current now, not like that time anymore. You remember the dinosaurs, big deal. All right, let me take you up even further. We intersect on a dead nitrous half-light. My head is partially blinded and the brain is flying around like a cross-section of a fetal flute. I feel like a whole section of my body is paralyzed, the rest of my being based solely on reflexes, an animal facade quite alien and incomprehensible to me. Razor blades talk to me, so I'm alone in this room. Music on stage, music falling, music spurting across the stage, music moving in the right direction. My entrails covered in blood. The blood is my leash, only the blood spurt demonizing this industry. I am being deliberately sublimated, an act of love for all the hate and the pure creation of the devil-minded. I don't see that coming, said the other half, screaming through him from the black depths, attendant shoulder tats, finger glowing menthol smoke lolling through flesh, cobblestone burning, styrofoam, cobblestone glowing ash black. The other half, who grabs your ribs and pins them to the side like domes, who's black-eyed and cruel as a bull, who shot your daddy in a gothic bar, with a sinister look on her face and a pocket watch that just says 9 in huge red letters, with a huge falsy basket dancing across the desert and the headlights of a fat truck, rainbow night saluting its occupant, coming at us head-on from a fallen gallows, haunted by a blade-pierced daughter deep in the dream, eating mushroom-dense feast of 1,000 little rainbow fish, 3,000 years in showroom, twilight pool halls and limestone cliff faces, ghost hands gathering rock formations and marble streets, rag dolls of paralyzed and still absent people waiting in blue song, a rotting canoe through the branches and pearls of mutilated sky, smell of healed and half-healed skin and tentative smiles, dreamy and rotten at the same time, orgasm death in black rivers, phantom halves shifting in wind and rain, the river green with slow hate. I had all but given up hope of ever being with you.
That was fucking nuts. Man, that was like how by way of like the most dystopian cyberpunk ever. Like just Allen Ginsberg strung out and dying on some alien planet somewhere.
Yeah, so this was basically like a digital cut up. It was a combination of an archive of Rachel's tweets, so at Void Throat on Twitter, and Naked Lunch and the whole Nova trilogy, all put into one big text file, and then I fed that to a neural network and trained it on that corpus of text, and then like heavily curated the output, fed bits of it back into itself as prompts, and this is part of what we got out of it, and it's really good.
It's fucking amazing. So you say part. Is this going to be a larger project? Is this like an excerpt from?
Yeah, so we've got like multiple things going on, but yeah, this is one of them. This is the Burrowed one. The other one's a secret.
Oh boy. No, I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to seeing more of this, because the shit that you and some of the other writers here are doing with like AI assisted writing or neural net writing is absolutely mind-bendingly wonderful. And
And this background actually is also AI generated based on the text of the first paragraph.
oh shit. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Griffin. Next up, Gianluca with, I think, this time you have a piece of fiction for us, I think.
Yeah, I think it's like a piece of like I guess I tried my hand at like auto fiction. I don't know. It's like something like all right. So here it is. Okay, it's called "Death Driving to the Taco Bell to Get a Black Cherry Slushie." One day I decided to go to a petrol station. The petrol station had this dedicated place for slushies. I had never been there before. There was a big line outside full of families and overweight children, and it was beautiful to see, but it was also a unique experience because I had never been to this kind of line before. That is, a line along the side of an establishment just to get in. The kind of line exists alongside a brick wall. Most of the lines I had been in previously were in front of a door, not next to it. There was also a kind of liveliness about the line, with the kids talking shit, loudly enjoying their slushies, while sitting on wooden benches attached to tables. The people in the line seemed cool. There was this girl that kind of looked like somebody from high school, but she wasn't. She seemed interesting, but may not have been. After a pleasant wait, I walked up to the unicorn. It was just nice to stand amongst people, not because of some armchair psychology, COVID psychosis, but just because people are cool. People ran about like children, getting the ice and syrup from the machines, as did I, although I thought myself above it all because I moved slower and more calmly. Some of the machines splashed flavored liquid everywhere. This place was a machine of libidinal, childish, consumerist individualism bursting at the seams. In other words, it was cool as fuck. I'm a bastard. Please don't read this as a condemnation. Or do. It doesn't really matter. In the cosmic sense, it matters incredibly to me. I was in a daze and trying to avoid my fellow customers. The thing is, having a piece of sugary crap with ice in it turns you into a bastard. It's behind this family man, and I was thinking, how long is this going to take? A gangrenous, grotesque monstrosity might melt. It didn't. Waiting is pleasant. It's cool to just be in a place and not have to worry about the fact that you're doing nothing. Just take a look around. Pinks and Blues kind of reminded me of the movie Downfalls High, which was a Gene on Candle review with artists as a companion piece to Baker's 20 album, Tickets to My Downfall, of which I had at that point only listened to the opening track. I overheard some broad talking to her kids saying, "It wasn't you, the lady overdid it," or something like that. Trained them to hate service workers early, like, God damn, the kid didn't get his sugary crap fast enough. I mean, I exhibited the same reaction myself, but at least I felt bad about it. Some poor, underpaid slushy slinger who probably had enough on their plate keeping this whole machine going. After finishing the overpowering mixture, I walked over to the freezers, Kurt Cobain lookalikes, happy families, Pop-Tarts, kids in Iron Man onesies, all partaking in one sacred, beautiful pastime like a Norman Rockwell painting. Japanese extra strong Monster Energy, a Mountain Dew white and blue flavor, red, white, and blue flavor. I apologize. 4th of July, limited edition, like Disneyland, and it was its own separate little world dedicated to slushies. I was the fat middle-aged man wearing a Mickey Mouse hat, marveling at rides, pointing out Goofy and Donald to his sugar-poisoned children, or at least I occupied the same role. So I purchased some of the drinks. I wondered what the patriotic Mountain Dew tasted like. People weren't obeying the sign. I was an officious bastard, an ugly one too. This guy was shaking water out of his head by tilting it, the man who I designated as a rubber of decay because I was in a spectacularly vain mood. He didn't even look that bad. He was kind of cute. If I was a heterosexual woman and he was particularly funny, I would probably be quite attracted to him. Hell, even the kid was cracking his neck or tipping out water. The kid was more of an athlete than me. I was just looking to spend the hour and maybe lose a little weight. I was forced to the edge because everyone was swimming in their own segment rather than clockwise as the sign instructed. This meant that I could not arc my arms to their fullest extent. I wondered if this other guy was annoyed at my not obeying the sign, forcing him to not obey it. I thought about going up to him saying, "Same thing happened to me, man." But then I realized how shitty it would sound. It's probably just a normal guy that wanted to swim. He was like the law, the statesman with his arms crossed. Later on, he handed me my locker bracelet, which I would have otherwise forgotten. This probably meant something. Later on, I met her. She was beautiful, and I didn't know her name. Floated. I was destined to the Taco Bell to get a black chip slushie. Every bastard wants to be a writer. If you got no social skill, what to do? You are righteous party. You are my Adam. I love you so. We call auto fiction is just tabloid speculation applied to real people. The ugly thoughts you immediately regret, but now given legitimacy because they're bound up in a book and fashionable self-loathing. I hate self-deprecation. If you hated yourself so much, you wouldn't be here. So I said to the angel, "You are my Adam lover, and I love you so." And she knew that I had never met a girl before and said, "What if I was some subway worker?" And I was all like, "Then I would get a discount." And this was the Zen accelerationist wisdom. Only through rampant materialism can we achieve peace. Only when we are truly sick and tired of art and people and things and skincare can we begin our spiritual suicide. It was like Lou Reed said when he wanted us to give up our life of reason, but it was here on the big screen. And I said to her, "What kind of movies do you like?" And she said, "I like Peggy Sue Got Married." And I said, "I've never seen that." I hate artists because they're all French or pedophiles, whereas true American craftsmen while away some of their free time drinking beer and don't feel the least depressed about it. I don't want to grill. In my arrogance, I don't want to grill. My angel is not a femboy. I am egoistic and deeply impatient. I can't wait to read some Sterner so I can logically justify my complete sociopathy and distance from the world. You can logically justify anything. Sorry. You can logically justify anything. You can't emotionally justify anything. And yet it's the former that makes our hearts sing. People are bastards. I don't own a car. I don't like cars. I like public transport, but I can't get on the tube now, so I just walk. There was a period in my life where I had to sleep on a different bed. All the time I thought that I would wake up earlier if I just had my bed back. Turns out it wasn't the bed. I realize how much that sounds like self-aggrandizement. The thing is, with autofiction, there isn't sufficient distance between the author and the character, so the ugly impulses are legitimized, not only by the form but by the author. When the author has a character, they can really go in on them. It is a clear truth, so clear I may as well not even say it, that when an author goes in on a character, it's really in on themselves, they don't realize it. This is because authors are self-obsessed fucks. No one ever critiques real life. But when you're writing fiction, you can avoid stereotypes and introduce motifs and shit. Godard was pretty cool about this because he depicted himself as having incestuous fantasies in his movie Every Man for Himself. This makes me respect him as an artist, despite Pierre Le Fou being a pile of crap. Just in case you wanted an indication of how utterly shallow I am. Despite dating an angel, I was still a virgin, which was good because sexy and cumbersome. Not that I wasn't excited for it and consumed by it. I had started masturbating more. The angel treated me well. This disturbed me greatly. Naturally, we saw Peggy Sue Got Married. I was delighted for her because she was happy watching the movie. Patronizing, I know. I felt nothing. I, however, had advanced along the path of Zen accelerationism. I had spiraled into not enjoying anything. Nothing aesthetically pleased me. Nothing made me think. Nothing entertained me, and nothing aroused great love in me. In other words, I was afflicted by the disease that was spreading quickly among the insufferable privileged. Ennui. Still, I pretended to enjoy things, because otherwise the angel would be sad. One day, work resumed. Summer break was over. I realized how fundamentally selfish I have been in my descriptions of the angel. That is, I have only ever related what I had done for her and her utility to me. Only briefly did I touch on what she did for me. Even then, excessive focus on that would cross over into fetishization. This angel had no wings. However, I do not want to describe her appearance to you. As callous as it sounds, I am embarrassed by her appearance. That is, I know the reader would think less of me, or even think me a punchline if I related the appearance of the angel that appeared to me at one point. To be honest, I still didn't even know her name. You are my atom lover, my minstrel queen. I show up in the mask made up out of the skin of some garbage bag and breathe deeply. Anyway, one day the angel got sick and died. You know the story. You know how it goes. She curses me, curses the fact that she spent her remaining mortal cycle with a guy who never knew her, who was barely alive, and wanted pity for that fact. We belong to a lineage of ideas. Every work is the bastard child of incestuous lovers. However, if the genetic deficiencies are too noticeable, people start to jeer. Reality is by its nature deformed, and so the hyper-real symbols leak in. Reality is a simulacra. Work was good. I just wanted to know what to do. And so I did. At work, some guy brought in a hammer and started assaulting some chick. I got a bloody nose. The extra strength monster energy was excellent. I now empathize with those who abuse amphetamines. Drive, meaning, beauty, and purpose, all in one fast little pill. The big three: angels, demons, and machines. We were the great mother from which poured the non-human entities, and so our children will phase us out, for our bloated body is smothering that which supports us. Only we exist. The sun, Only we exist. The hut was a floating Pontius farm on fire, the whiteness, the moon, and my riches circling the sun. More disturbingly, the lyrics are less about meaning and more about being empathized with. They become explicit appeals to responsibility and forgiveness. Imagination may rest on the head, and so my attempts to replicate the luster of a clock are beyond me. What does it matter if we are Sherlock Holmes or Michel Franco? Well, are my theories. I can't have them. They're all fictional. They're all garbage. They'd all be generated by Fox beginning with their minds. Why must every workplace week have a cryogenic bath? There is beauty. There are lepers. There are methinkers. The trees sprout out of our broken corpse. The vampires bathe us in mystery, like the idea of a piece of plastic drying up like a raisin in the sun. Symbols allow you to connect to the heart of the matter, the apple carton that turns out to be Khalil Gibran. They give you a little inspiration as a compass, a piece of meat that is quickly to be consumed, protected by symbols. Likewise, you may be thinking, but so many symbols. The truth is, the world is composed of symbols. You couldn't tell them religion was irrelevant, as they were simply being observant. People believe in godallegories.com. There is a website dedicated to bringing useful DMT to everyone. So people are just going to drop by your house and see what you have on. You have a desk and a hard drive. Don't you get it? You have a desk and a hard drive. Someone will post something to social media and expect it to be authentic. I know this seems like a big deal to most people, but it is actually quite a lot. The world succumbs to its own parasitic drive. We are parasitic on the drip of knowledge. Any attempt to combat this drive will inevitably lead to errors. There will be people who want to protect themselves and their property. Perhaps the drive to protect is the mark of a good artist.
That was great. I love the way you use autofiction as a tool to deconstruct autofiction. I think that's very clever. And I love how, especially like in the first few paragraphs, how completely you dissect one tiny moment in time and get at all of the the contradictions and self-contradictions and the thoughts you have, and like you're passing judgment on someone, and then you're passing judgment on yourself, and then you're trying to decide whether you should be passing judgment on yourself. It's so rich, and there's so much depth, and it's so penetrating and complete, even though you're dealing with a relatively tiny moment in time. But it's very good. It's very good. Thank you for sharing it. Next up is Gabriel.
You guys hear me? Can you
Loud-
guys hear my AC? I feel like it's super, super loud.
No, I can't hear it at all. You must have good noise canceling
Okay.
on your mic.
All right, cool. This is super fresh. I just finished this like hours ago, so it's a little rough. It's called The Back Room. Our understanding with Brenner was psychic level simpatico. When someone was on the same drugs as you, meth, you had that instant brotherhood, even when that guy's 50 years your senior. And we knew he was a freak because at 2 a.m. we saw him coming out of the bathroom at the beach with sexual Pablo, the estranged father of a boy in our gang. So when we would go harass Brenner for free clothes, creating free trade from our safely distanced, exposed flesh, it was our weird, immature way of attempting fraternity, making constellations of our town's seedy underbelly even more complex. I mean, we could have told him we had all made out with each other by this point, but he was too old to understand we weren't queer. We only did it because we had run out of stuff to do, already used up all our rebel tokens at 16. In similar spirit, we visited Brenner every day just because we were fucking bored. Old Glory was the name of his non-curated, incongruent downtown vintage store, but only we called it Old Glory Hole due to its hidden language and secret opportunities. Brenner's shoulders jumped every time we swung the door open. It rang a happy little bell that made his head twitch, eyes blink, his whole body anxiety cracked like we had just caught him doing something he shouldn't, even when he wasn't. He would wave a quick hello, head nodding in defeat as we paraded in 5, sometimes 10 teenagers deep. As we circled the interior, our daily tasting of the joint, he busied himself by straightening the stacks of curio on his glass counter, picking things up, putting them back down again, fidgeting nervously before he'd resign to white-knuckle the glass, surveying us the best he could from the strobe of his compulsive blinking. Brenner was a modestly dressed 60-year-old thick-accented German man, but like the shrunken head character from Beetlejuice, he had a perpetually terrified expression on his face, eyes so wide and bloodshot they seemed to incriminate his own skull. We'd rifle through the clothes rack, throw them on the floor, ransacking every corner of the cave-like store as if we were trying to bust him for something. Really, we were just trying to score some cool threads, find some jewel he didn't know he had. But since we were scared of the labyrinthian dressing rooms, all the way down a dark hallway and back, we'd have to eyeball our size, hold it up to our still developing bodies that seemed to outgrow everything weekly. Our gang was its own moving, shaking organism, a huddled mob whose muscle lie in our sheer number. Since we knew he was a total perv, we'd either steal or hustle him out in the open in various degrees of manipulation. Hey, Brenner, if I try this on out here in front of you, can I have it for free? Became the hush-hush currency. Some of us were modest, hastily stripping down to our boxers to score a decent pair of old Levi's. Others took it to more precarious levels, getting totally naked when we just wanted combat boots, helicoptering our cocks, chanting, taunting Brenner until he'd crack into a smirk, pretend he wasn't really looking. It became our own rite of passage. How far were you going to go to see if you could break Brenner until he told us all to get the fuck out, looking both ways to no one, blinking, blinking, blinking. Brenner was sort of a time traveler, inexplicably stuck in the 50s, a decade that became his desperate and phony gold standard. Everything in the store was, quote, from the 50s, especially items that weren't, items he couldn't even give away. We'd test his limp pitches for things we wouldn't be caught dead with, then hustle him back. Hey, Brenner, how much for these gross fucking bell bottoms? Oh, those are $100, vintage, from the 50s. Hey, Brenner, how much for this stupid fucking Village People record? Oh, that is a real collector's item, $25. It's from the 50s, you know. Fuck you, Brenner, lying sack of shit. Give me this leather jacket for free. It's from right fucking now, because I'm taking off my t-shirt for you, so I'm going to wear it right the fuck out of the store, fucking perv. It became an intrinsic relationship of our own command, the kids completely in charge of the sketchy exchange. Soon, each of our wardrobes were comprised strictly of tasteful vintage clothing from Old Glory, a striptease story for each item. The rituals got more organized, more choreographed. When one boy couldn't imagine leaving without a shirt or slacks we knew we'd never see elsewhere, we'd form a half circle of protective layer around him with just an opening towards the counter so Brenner could get a show. The Ark would holler, cheer on the teenage stripper as he took it all off, hamming it up, flossing his naked ass with the object of desire, the universal stunt which deemed him the proud new owner, his puberty stink as the final seal of the deal. Brenner would pretend he didn't like what was going on until this daring finale, where his smirk would beam fearlessly, stretching out to finally relax. We were worlds apart, but on his level, an understanding he couldn't explain to any other adult without worrying them sick. One day we barged in, typically boisterous, the same way we always would, satirically Sieg-heiling the poor old German bastard as we marched in single file to see how much we could get away with. But there was no one manning the counter, no one's lineage to ridicule, no one's private sexual preference to brazenly take advantage of. The place appeared empty until we found out we weren't alone, when a large bearded biker clad in leather iron-crossed vest with red and white patches emerged from that back room where we never ventured. His face stoic, ominous with aviator shades. He hauled a paper grocery bag overflowing with what appeared to be magazines. His presence, while transient, harbored unmistakable bad vibes that choked us to silence long after he walked out. The chimes on the door rang as it shut behind him, signaling Brenner to materialize from the deep, dark hallway, coming up for air. He entered the main showroom where we stood, his head down to adjust his clothing before he looked up in horror, all of us in intimidating formation, unintended. "Get out, all of you, get out right this second," he screamed, his voice cracking. We had exposed a new vulnerability we couldn't put our finger on, so we grabbed handfuls of whatever we can get our hands on as we filtered out of the shop, knowing he wouldn't stop us. When we reconvened in the alley, one of our gang was missing. Where the fuck is Keith? Sorry, that name should be Keith. Where the fuck is Keith? We saw him walking slow and somber towards us at the end of the block, his straggling no accident. "Where'd you go?" we asked. "I don't want to talk about it," he said. Keith, the lovable, inquisitive runt of the gang, had gotten too curious. Since he was closest to the back room, he slipped back there once Brenner was telling the rest of us to scram. We finally convinced him to cough it. "There was like these magazines back there with like kids, little kids," he said. "What kind of fucking magazines? Like highlights?" we said. "No, not like highlights, like fucking magazines, you know." The speed bump here was that Keith was also a compulsive liar. He even lied about harmless things, inconsequential things. So it was hard to take him seriously with this extreme claim. We just forgot about it as fast as we could. But even Keith beat us to the denial. "Yeah, I mean, who knows? It was totally dark back there. You know, I don't even know what I'm talking about," he said, a nervous chirp of laughter following his shrug. But after that day, everything felt different. Brenner began to look sickly, increasingly paranoid, not as friendly to go along with our court jester gang chaos. He would only allow us in the store for 5 minutes and only 2 of us at a time. He only took cash now, cash we didn't have. The more his eyes turned into sunken caves, the more his lips quivered, the less fun he was, so the less we showed up. Until the day we were faced with a close sign that no one ever took down because we checked back every single day. "Fuck, did you hear Brenner died? Brenner's fucking dead." We weren't surprised, but we couldn't believe it. None of us prepared for the void he would leave behind, except for Keith. "Ha, that's cool. I mean, he was kind of weird though." We scolded him for his lack of sentimental fortitude. "Well, I mean, I did go by Old Glory this morning when I heard he died, and there was this flyer on the door for his funeral. I guess everyone's invited," he said, unfolding, then presenting the notice not meant to be removed. "I don't want to go, though. You guys have fun," he said. The open air closed casket ceremony was the who's who of our elder small-town freak underground, roughly 15 aging burnout misfits we had somehow never seen before. Since we were the youngest ones in attendance, our very presence was a distraction, heads turning, mouths whispering, piercing eyes pointing, until the Catholic priest gave a redemptive sermon, heavy on sin and forgiveness, how no one is born perfect, therefore no one dies perfect, how nothing in between it all is perfect, something like that.
Oh my God, that was fucking fantastic. I love how at the end, those 2 words, Catholic priest, have a completely different resonance than they would in any other story.
I didn't even think about that until you just brought that up. I swear that it's yeah, I didn't even, that wasn't some Easter egg or something, but it is now.
That was so fucking good, though. I love the dialogue in that piece. I love the dynamic between Brenner and the kids, where they somehow intuit exactly how he's fucked up, and that like perverse way that like they're taking advantage of him and he's taking advantage of them. It's a really tricky dynamic to capture in literature,
Right.
and you capture it in a way that feels like perversely true to life and also really really funny.
Good.
um
I'm glad the humor came through.
I I want to say this. Um, our July theme, as you might know, is exploitation. I think you said you just literally fucking finished this thing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you don't have a home for it yet.
Oh,
don't
yeah,
feel,
shit. That would be okay. Yeah.
Don't feel obligated. You may have like
I
a
see what
paying
you're
market in
putting
mind or
down.
something. But
No, I'm trying to get back into doing like a story a week. So yeah, I would love to
yeah,
I would love to submit that.
I think it would be a fantastic fit, honestly. I think
Cool.
both for Misery Tourism and for the theme of the month. And I could see Rudy absolutely losing it in the chat while you were while you were reading. So I don't think I'm out of line here.
No, man, that was amazing. The humor and that, like the highlights when that fucking killed me. You couldn't see it, but I literally almost fell out of my chair.
Awesome.
No, that's excellent.
Cool. Well, I really appreciate that, guys.
It's amazing that you just cranked it out. That's the first draft.
Yeah, I mean, I started it two days ago,
Wow.
but I seriously have nothing but time right now. I'm on disability, so I flog myself daily if I don't write. It's like, what the fuck else am I gonna do? You know?
I feel you. I feel the same way about. I do the same thing basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how to relax, so that's my own private hell I have to deal with.
It's a
Yeah, I
beautiful
hear
hell.
you.
That's great.
Thank you.
But yeah, definitely a phenomenal first draft. And as I said, if you think Misery Tourism would be a good home for it, I'm pretty sure Rudy and I
Yeah,
think it'd be good for Misery.
I'll go over it over the weekend, and yes, I'm in. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks,
Awesome.
Gabriel. So I think we do have time for a little bit of an open mic here. If anyone wants to read, I don't know if anyone has anything they want to share. So you can put it in the chat, or you can just shout it out, because that's it for our scheduled readers. If not, we can call it a night. Oh, Rudy, do you have something?
I can read something.
Awesome.
Hell yeah, dog.
So this is a. Let me get the link here. This is a
Just
game.
quickly, if you'd like to read after Rudy, just put it in the chat, okay? Sorry, Rudy, all yours.
Oh yeah. This is a game. Don't tweet the link because it's for a game jam that technically hasn't started yet. Allegedly, it doesn't start till tomorrow. But I think this link should work though. So this is a game about censorship, I guess. That link work?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Excellent. At some point, the temperature of Earth's thermostat increased by a few degrees. As nature foreclosed on delinquent cities of steel and glass, man, full of spite, left stopped-up water faucets flowing in an attempt to dam any future residents. Coasts flooded, the life aquatic became real instead of just being a shitty Wes Anderson dramedy. Inside the waterlogged ruins of the last public library in Boston, man's successors emerged. You are one of them, a sometimes cephalopod, sometimes humanoid hot mess of ink and feels. As vassals of the elite influencers, those Chadley paragons of your race who dwell in the higher parts of the library, you work all day as sensates. Your job is using your feels to censor works of literature in ways that you know, through empathic channeling, will please your masters. One player is the Brute, a squid, based and worldly, that swims around the fetid waters of the library's depths, dredging up sealed containers of ancient books. Brute. Start off by picking a book to use for this game. Pick one that you aren't afraid to mark up and draw in. Grab a black pen too. The other player is the Pather, the human form of the Brute, so the Brute when it's feeling sensitive, I guess. Pathers need a red pen. The Brute and the Pather are different states of the same organism. They share the same body and mind, but behave differently when they shapeshift, which they do frequently. Brutes are regimented, orderly builders. Pathers feel things. The Pather begins the game by making their mark in the book, scratching out a sentence, inserting a comma, replacing a word with another word. Do this in red ink. After each change, the Brute takes over, using black ink, writes or draws marginalia that explains why the Pather marked up the book in the manner they did. Do this through inventing world details, do it through inventing the laws of this land, which might be maritime laws since there isn't much land. Do it through drawing a cartoon that shows what it's like to live in a flooded Boston Public Library as a squid person. Do not contradict previous marginalia that you have scrawled if you can help it. And if you can't, scold yourself in the mirror and say, bad Brute. After each page is marked up to the Pather's satisfaction, an interlude begins. During each interlude, the Pather uses their great empathy, TM, to conjure a caricature of the book's author. The Brute should give life to this caricature, portraying them by speaking and gesture. The caricature is a thought form, a physical manifestation of the Pather's feels about the author. Brute. Consider, based on the things the Pather previously censored, how they see the author of the book. You aren't making a character, you're making a caricature. So don't go for real life accuracy. Go for over-the-top exaggeration and exploitation. Slip into the role of the caricature for 5 to 10 minutes, answering questions from the Pather's player as they interrogate them in your shared mind castle. Pather, interrogate the shit out of the author. What were they thinking? How dare they? Etc., etc., etc. Repeat the process of markup and interlude ad nauseum, continuing until the world details are a confusing clusterfuck where the personality of the author becomes impossibly strained under said details. Continue until you're bored, then throw the goddamn book into the sea. The toilet also works. Post pictures of your censored books under the hashtag for the influencers, 2K21, if you feel comfortable doing so. See how many likes you get. Are your masters impressed? And this game is called Aquatic Product.
This is great. This is great. I love what you're doing with this. This seems like it'd be very fun to play. I know we are going to attempt a dry run, of this in the not too distant. You see what I did there, Rudy?
See what you did there.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, we're gonna do that in the not too distant future. So I'm looking forward to getting the chance to play this. Do you want to talk a little bit about like what influenced? Why
I see what you did there.
Fucking game.
So basically there's a game jam coming up called the One Page RPG Game Jam, and this was kind of based on like some thoughts about internet censorship that I had. The phrase aquatic product is actually something something from like Chinese internet lingo that they use to talk about censorship. It's like a homonym, I think that's the word, of like it's a like there's a Chinese phrase that it sounds the same as. I think it's a homonym, right?
God, yeah.
So so like the phrase for like harmonious or harmonizing or something like that, it sounds like that. So they use that term. They use the term river crab, I think, is another term. It's a phrase for censorship, basically. It means censorship.
Oh wow, that's amazing! I didn't even know that.
But like, yeah, but it's this game was
why river crab?
Why I think it's I don't know exactly. It's
it buries itself in mud.
Well, it sounds very much like I can look it up here. It's
like just the phonetics of it.
the phonetics of it. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay,
I'm gonna
okay.
I'm gonna bungle the word if I try to
It's
say
not
it.
like
But
a metaphor kind of like thing.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's just
Okay.
yeah. It basically sounds a lot like the it's like just a euphemism they use for that. But
That's like one of the most fun things when you study a different language. You get like their whatever silly wordplay.
yeah, it's weird. I guess the word is like their word for harmonious. It's like a near homophone for that. So
For mud crab.
yeah, river crab.
A river crab, yeah. No, that's mud crab, dude.
Yeah, but
Those are burrowing boys.
but no. So like it was just like a combination of like some feels about internet censorship and like the idea of like taking a book and like creating a thought form, like a literal like tulpa of the author, but it's what you think about the author. The first book I imagined doing this for was actually like Lolita, because it's like, oh well, Nabokov is a pervert. He's he's the kitty diddler or whatever. That would be what would. I don't know. I just imagine some.
Rudy was.
He's a lolicon poster.
Like, I want to play this game with you, and I want to do Lolita, and I was like, okay, well, let me read it, and I read it, and I'm like, you're not with my copy of Lolita, buddy.
So what we're at.
We can go online and we can legally obtain a PDF of Lolita, and then we can play the game with it.
Literally,
my copy of Lolita.
So what we're actually gonna probably do is do it with an expat book, but we Manny has generously given me some copies of the PDF so we can print them out, and we're gonna probably do it with one of the expat books. So yeah, it's.
Rudy, if you can get William's copy of Lolita, I'd love to play this game with you.
I think William's copy is actually my copy. It was my copy first. I think that I gave to him. I believe. I'm not.
Actually, what happened is you gave me your copy of Lolita, and then a friend of mine wanted that copy of Lolita because it was the one with the socks, and I don't know
socks. Yes.
the ones with the socks.
So just between the two of you, like the pages are all glued shut now. No, I'm sorry, that's a terrible joke. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's terrible. That's really bad.
With him.
It's a novella now.
The novella.
Yeah, that's real short. Yeah,
it's the abridged version.
Flip chunk, flip chunk, flip chunk. Yeah. I'm sorry. That's terrible. I'm sorry. That's terrible.
Anyway, moving on. Rudy, so we're gonna play this. But did you decide which expat book we're gonna use?
No, I hope we could decide that whenever. It doesn't matter. But
okay.
I was thinking a Bibles book. I gotta ask Bibles if he approves of that.
That would be good because that's autofiction, so that adds a whole other layer to the game. But anyway, thank you, Rudy.
I don't think you can play this game with a book whose author you know. Like,
that's a good point.
That's a good point, actually. I mean, you could. I guess you might. Yeah.
Like at a certain point, you're just like doing a parody of this guy you know from Twitter.
That's true. Which I think would be a legit way to play it, but
which is fine.
It's pretty fun.
But I think it'd be more fun with an author you didn't know. I guess, yeah.
Anyway,
just like
thank you
with MFA students.
So, does anyone else want to read tonight before we call it a night?
I saw Blick, I think, in the chat.
Blick has a piece? Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah, hi. This is a real piece. It's an art piece. That actually, it was such a pisser. I was able to sell it for $200 because it was up in a gallery in New York called Plaxel. And what it is, I have it on my wall. I got okay. What this is, it's one of my Facris, and this guy, his name is Bobby Finero. I think I was telling Tony about it at Unity. So Bobby Finero, he's a pretty well-known actor. He was on The Sopranos. He's a guy who hung himself, committed suicide. Anyway, so he was in a play of mine called The Milkman's Sister. And he really wanted to do this play because he's always playing tough guys, and this guy is the exact opposite. So he took this selfie backstage of himself in character. And when I saw Bobby's like this, it fucking blew me away. So I had to write something just based on this piece. So an artist friend of mine put it together, and we called it art, and it got into this show, and it's called Gravity Grateful. But all right, can you see Bobby's face? All right, Gravity Grateful. Looking down from high places doesn't bother me at all, but when I have to look up at things like buildings, it makes me nervous because it feels like some kind of force, like a magnet or something, is going to pull me up and lift me off the ground, which is a lot worse than falling, because if you're falling down, you know you're falling, and that's that. But to get pulled off the ground and lifted into the air, you're not falling, but you could fall at any moment. And there's no end, because if you fall, you have to land. But if you're lifted up, it could go on forever. And I hate that. Okay. Visual art for the disenchanted. Right?
That's awesome. I love, so you wrote a play, he appeared in the play.
And he took a selfie of himself in the dressing room. Yes.
Inspired another piece of writing. That is so wonderfully meta.
Yeah.
It's like layers upon layers of that.
Well, but the funny thing is somebody paid $200 for that. So,
Wow. Awesome.
Oh, damn. That's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Kicks ass.
I love that. The like twisted, wow, that's so good.
Yeah, thanks to Bobby.
Thank you very much, Blick. And I think on that note, I don't see anyone else in the chat saying they want to read, so we're going to end it there. But as usual, I'll keep the chat open in case anyone wants to, stay and hang out or whatever. But if you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, this has been Misery Loves Company, a social reading series hosted by miserytourism.com. We do this every fucking week. We tweet the link out on Twitter. Our Twitter account is @miserytourism about 20 minutes before we start. And we do this every Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific. And yeah, if you're watching this after the fact, come and check it out. We welcome anyone who can come and read, anyone who can come and lurk. It's cool. Okay, that's it.